We have a new entry for the most ill-judged article of 2021. It's by Rachel Johnson, who is Boris Johnson's sister, and she's decided it's the perfect moment to defend Jeffrey Epstein's best friend, Ghislaine Maxwell. It's hard not to pity Ghislaine Maxwell. The subheading, we met briefly at Oxford. The context of this article, so the timing, is that Ghislaine Maxwell is about to stand trial in New York, charged with sex crimes, conspiracy and perjury related to the actions of the financier Jeffrey Epstein. The indictment charges that Maxwell would try to normalise sexual abuse for a minor victim by, among other things, discussing sexual topics, undressing in front of the victim, being present when a minor victim was undressed, and or being present for sex acts involving the minor victim and Epstein. So that's what the prosecution is saying. Rachel Johnson, though, the Prime Minister's sister, thinks this might all be a bit harsh. Let's have a look at her reasoning. It's hard not to feel a bat squeak of pity for Ghislaine Maxwell. 500 days and counting in solitary confinement. I intersected briefly with her at Oxford. As a fresher, I wandered into Balliol JCR one day in search of its subsidised breakfast granola and Nescafe offering and found a shiny glamazon with naughty eyes holding court astride a table and high-heeled boot resting on my brother Boris's thigh. She gave me a pitying glance, but I did manage to snag an invite to her party in Headington Hill Hall, even though I wasn't in the same college as her and Boris. I have a memory of her father, Bob, coming out in a toweling robe and telling us all to go home. I'm sure fair-weather friends would not reveal they went to Ghislaine Maxwell's party, as Barbara Amiel's brilliant memoir, Friends and Enemies, proves. You only know who your real chums are when you're in the gutter. It's important to note that wasn't an introduction to an article which goes on to list Maxwell's alleged crimes and discuss how people change or how people are complex or how people who you like on the surface could have dark underbellies. No, in a column which also discusses dog breeds and whether political correctness has gone so far that we can't say women's hospital, this is all she has to say about Ghislaine. What is Rachel Johnson doing?
Firstly, she's kind of throwing her brother under the bus there, which, love to see it. But this is also, it's a great example of really thinking that you're about to come and say what is on everyone's mind and just telling on yourself in the process. Like, no, Rachel, it's actually not hard to not pity someone when you pity someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, when you consider the seriousness of what she has been she has been allegedly implicated in. And the wealth of quite credible evidence that is stacked against her. Like, if she is guilty of what is being alleged, she has caused untold trauma to many young women who have been voiceless and nameless for many, many years. And let's not forget, she essentially went into hiding and so obstructed the process of finding out what actually happened and bringing justice for so many of these women. And it's not political correctness to not pity someone who was allegedly involved in the sex trafficking of young girls. The irony there as well of her that weird like transphobic dog whistle where she says, she's talking about this in the context of you can't even say women's hospital anymore, which I presume, I haven't read the article, but I presume is a dog whistle to the idea that trans women or trans rights is somehow undermining feminism, which is, I don't understand how she can't see the irony of throwing that in the mix. And as I said, she's defending a woman who is accused of grooming young girls for a sex trafficking ring in order to serve rich men. Bizarre move there. But weirdly, I think this also actually speaks to the way in which these certain echelons operate, right? The kind of boundless sympathy and camaraderie that they have for one another, no matter how awful they behave, no matter what they do, and yet the carceral and punishing mentality that they have for everyone else. It's kind of the same logic. It's just done here in a more haphazard way because Rachel Johnson just happened to pick on one of the most unsympathetic characters in the news right at the moment. She kind of overplayed her hand. But yeah, this article for me just showed the hypocrisy and the lack of sense that underpins so many of these kinds of columns, which decry, cancel culture and political correctness going too far, and how really it's just, I want people that either remind me of myself, or people that I have some kind of social connection with, or people that I feel connected with in some way, to be able to get away with whatever they want. Meanwhile, everyone else has to live by the rules of society and gets punished if they don't. And that's really what lies at the heart of a lot of these sort of intelligentsia, so-called, newspaper column diatribes on this issue.
I really like that phrase, in defending the indefensible, she's kind of overplayed her hand here. If you're going to defend someone in The Spectator, maybe not Ghislaine Maxwell on the eve of a trial into whether or not she partook in sex trafficking.